Welcome back to the Ruck and Roll show. We're back for season three after a very short second season, 10 months all told. I'm back with Dom and I'm back with Luke, and we're back for season three of the Ruck and Roll show. So, boys, how
Cameras
are
are
we
still
doing?
rolling.
How are we feeling about the rugby season?
I'm pretty happy. I'm really happy actually at the
Yeah,
moment. It's not been
Springboks.
too bad for us.
Yeah, that's it. The Springboks have been doing pretty well, to be fair. What do you
Under
think about
20
the?
world champions as well.
Yeah, that's it. All right. Well, just don't rub it in our face, okay? Just me and Dom out here with our little nations which can't win a World Cup or
Well,
might.
Dom can.
Some of us can.
Well, actually, that's true, isn't it? Yeah.
So, yeah, some of us clearly can't make it out of the quarterfinal.
Yeah,
So,
out of a quarter final. That's it.
Beat me to
I
it.
knew it. Yeah, it was only a matter of time before that one came out. Well, anyway, we're back for season three of the Rock and Roll show. We had debated whether to call it season two, but we figured since the last episode was 10 months ago that it wouldn't have really been appropriate. So here we are for season three. We're smack bang in the middle of Lions Test series. Test one is done in Brisbane. The Lions have took the lead in the series. Boys, how are we feeling about the Lions this summer? It's been a cracking it's been a cracking summer, hasn't it?
Dom, I'll let you answer this one first.
uh, I think it's been a great summer. I've really enjoyed watching uh, debatably one of the best Lions teams in history come to
Ooh,
fruition.
ooh,
Um,
that's a big shout early on. That yeah.
That's a huge shout.
Gee, man,
I
good shout
I'd
that.
stand by it. I think it.
What
I
makes
think it
them the best? Do you think?
quality, obviously. I think if you just look at the squad and but also if you look further beyond that, who else could have been in the squad? I think Andy Farrell was pretty sport for choice in choosing his squad. So I think just if you look at that alone, I think it's definitely up there as one of the best squads there's been. Obviously, there's been some incredible squads over the years. The what was it, the 2017 one that
2017.
was yeah, that was
They
a
did
pretty
pretty well.
I'd say that's the
Yeah.
greatest of all
I
time.
I always I always look back at the 2009 side just with like Brian O'Driscoll and Paul O'Connell, and you had all
I,
them.
I love
Obviously, I've
watching the
named two Irish
2009
players
games.
there, obviously first up. But I always thought that was a pretty good one. Just for a little introduction as well. Obviously, you'll know obviously myself and Luke and Dom, who has also been a guest of the show in the past. He's now joined us on board as a regular. He spent the last year at Doncaster Knights in the championship. Dom, do you want to tell us a little bit about that experience?
yeah. So I was there working as the media and marketing executive, well, officer, and basically just kind of working alongside both the marketing side and the social media side to kind of combine the two, grow the social media platform, get all the views, the clicks, everything you kind of want out of my job. But also on the side of that, did launch the podcast. Big shout out to Argon Media for filming and producing that. And yeah, just kind of thought want to step more towards the broadcast route. So I've been roped in by these two lovely chaps and
Mhm.
get season three up and running
Yeah,
and
well, he's
rock and rolling.
rock and roll. I love that.
You
Yeah,
said
no,
the name.
he's one with words, isn't he? Yeah, no, we obviously had you in for season one. We obviously know each other from Cardiff University, where we did a lot of rugby punditry in the Cardiff Uni first team in Bucks Super Rugby. So that's where we know each other. And you've also I'm a little birdie, and by a little birdie I mean LinkedIn and messaging. You have been shadowing a certain Mr. Alex Payne at Sky Sports for a day, haven't you?
Yeah, I did. That was a really fortunate opportunity. I got to thank Surrey and McGeechan for that one. Worked with him when he's been consultant DOR at Doncaster Knights. So, and he just said, come down for the day, see what it's all about. And Alex is a lovely guy, very knowledgeable about his rugby. So took a lot of good pointers from him. And hopefully, who knows, one day I'll be maybe doing what he does.
Yeah. Well, he runs the second best podcast in rugby podcast in the UK behind the Rock and Roll show, obviously. Good band name
Obviously, yeah.
there. But yeah, potentially he'll get to your level one day, Dom. Oh, that's a great. How did you, just before we move into all the Lions chat and the rugby chat, how did you find the sort of the experience of working at Sky for the day, or shadowing at Sky Sports for the day, especially on their Lions coverage, which I think's been pretty spot on this summer.
Yeah, so on the panel they had that day they had Carl Sinclair, Sam Warburton, and Cyril McGeechan. I mean the three of them together is just like triple Norse for rugby. You know, you've got Surrey and McGeechan, one of the greatest, probably the greatest Lions coach. You know, he is Mr. Lions, so he knows it inside out, both from a playing perspective and from a coaching perspective. So it's great to hear his insights, and I could listen to him talk about rugby stories all day. Sam Warburton, probably the biggest Norse in rugby. I think they're just at the minute, and he's one of the greatest pundits in the game at the minute. So hearing them all speak, Carl is a great guy, really, really lovely. But I think
He's
just
good.
being in that,
He's good crack, isn't he? I've heard he was good crack.
yeah,
I've heard stories about him on tour and stuff like that, just through podcasts, and he's good crack, isn't he?
yeah, he is honestly, he's a typical kind of like teddy bear kind of guy, like
Mhm.
obviously big, mean, broad player, but you know, behind that kind of facade, he is just such a gentle giant.
Bit like
And just
yourself,
yeah, a really
then, would
lovely
you say?
guy.
Bit like yourself.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
very,
I guess
very. I
some
mean,
people would say that maybe. I don't
yeah,
know, but if you say it, I'll take it.
yeah. Just
But
trying to get the shoulder. He's trying to get the shoulders in a wee bit more there.
yeah, just make myself look a bit wider.
Yeah,
But
that's
no, yeah, the day on set was incredible. And listening to Alex kind of do his thing and just kind of learning the intricacies behind the camera. What's pre-recorded, what's done live, and how he kind of prepares for that. It is very insightful. And yeah, just a great day, great experience, and like I say, hopefully one day I can be the man that's hosting it. So who knows?
Happy days, yeah. No, a fantastic experience, and that whole Sky Sports setup. I think I'm not sure if you have seen it, like, but it's like a whole. Not this is not is we're not promoting them or anything. Obviously, it wouldn't matter anyway. But they've got it's like an augmented reality sort of studio setup, isn't it? Where it's sort of you can, I guess, interactive. You can move in and around. You can have sort of virtual team selections and stats and stuff
Yeah,
like that. It's quite impressive, isn't it?
Is this
yeah.
the
When all
one
the
with the
team
fake
lineups.
background?
No, so the whole set is real, but it's when the team lineups come up and stuff, like obviously he doesn't see that. It's just like it's AI that's just planted on there.
Mm.
Um so visual effects teams do a really good job and stuff like that. All the floating stuff basically it's just it's added in. They can't see it, but it's not like projection or anything. But he's got a little TV in front of him so he can kind of see where roughly he's pointing to, but I guess when you've been in the business for so long, you get used to
Yeah.
roughly where to point, and it'll just be put there. So yeah,
Yeah, no, that's really impressive stuff. And then obviously you've got like the whole. Sorry, I'm just going into. I've always found the broadcasting side of the rugby really interesting. Obviously, you've got a. What do you think? You think of the whole the graphic design? I think it was something like it's the First Nation, like the design of it. It was like First Nations. What's the word? Um.
Aboriginal?
Aboriginal, that's the one that was like based on like an Aboriginal, based on an Aboriginal artist, like did something that was like the lion like roaming through Australia. I thought it was quite cool.
like the intro to the Sky stuff.
Yeah, the intro, yeah, that's the one. Right, well, that's enough promotion for Sky Sports for one day. We will move in to test one review, guys. So the Lions ran out. Well, it didn't look so comfortable on the scoreboard in the end, but fairly comfortable winners, 27-19. What do you think of the game? Any thoughts? Any big performers that you thought stood out for you?
Um, I actually thought the game with Australia looked very shaky in the first half. They looked nervy. It seemed like the warm-up game against Fiji just didn't get them going the right way. I think actually Australia were nervy in the first half. They came out in the second and they looked a lot better. And we could see that they were playing such a great attacking rugby. And the defense did tighten up a bit. So I don't think it was as convincing. I think going into the next game, it will be a lot harder for the Lions. But the Lions definitely looked good on attack. Finn Russell, for me, was the best player on the pitch.
Mm.
I think he is the standout fly half in the Northern Hemisphere now. He should be the starting 10. He's just got such a good game now. In no matter the situation, he rises to the occasion.
Would you say he's better than your boy Sasha Feinberg and Golazulu? Would you say that? Would you
I
venture
would
as far
say
as that?
I would well after Zulu did that thing against Omani the Barbarians game. No, of course, Russell is a highly capped, Scottish international. He's been around the block for years. So to put a youngster on the same block as him just doesn't work. It doesn't equate. If I was to compare him to maybe the likes of Barrett or Pollard, I'd say he's competing with them in
Mm.
these sorts of games now. Russell definitely is rising to those occasions. He's standing up. He's also making such clever choices with his kicking. He really knows. And it looks like he's analysing how players like to run their backfield, like the fullbacks, the wings. And he's trying to find their weak points. And he's out kicking the Australians himself.
Yeah,
I think as well when you
absolutely.
look at him before a game, he's there, AirPods in, kind of just chewing on a bit of gum, like not really, almost like dossing about, taking it
Mm.
a bit of a really lightheartedly. But he can just go from one extreme to the other. Like even when you see him in a post-match interview, he's just like, yeah, it was all right. Like, yeah, played pretty well. Yeah, it was a good game. But he's just when he's in the game and just in the zone, he's just so locked in. And it's just, I think for me, I think he's the best 10 in the world at the moment. Andre probably was in that position not so long ago. 2 World Cups. I think that speaks for itself. But I think maybe he's taken his foot off the gas as he's knocked through the ages. But
But
no, I think Finn is definitely top dog.
how old is Finn? Is Finn sort of 33? Because Pollard's only
32,
31.
I think he is. Yeah, I think it's
So
like
they've still got years left on their career.
yeah. Well, I think when you play like he plays as well. I think you could almost like and the longevity that he's had already, I think you could almost sort of see him maybe not starting the next Lion series, but maybe like being in that squad even because
He
just
should, if he stays like he is, he should be on
it's
the.
not it's not even his physical ability. His physical ability is good. You've seen even he's been better like defensively recently. I think I remember a hit on Cameron Walkie last year where like Cameron Walkie basically ragdolls Ben
Mm.
Spencer and then Russell just comes in and crunches him. I think he's improved that part of his game as well. But yeah, you speak about that game now, stats, game intelligence, just the way he sees the game, that could carry on for another couple of years, yeah, I reckon. And I think like the big thing, as you spoke about there, is what he has improved is he's always been that sort of laid back character who sort of plays the game like you would play just down at the park with your mates. But the really good thing is, I think you spoke about it on just through an interview, saying that it's sort of like he plays his own game, but he plays it within a system. So he understands how to bring the best out of himself, sort of let that sort of creativity flow, that sort of cheekiness flow, but within that sort of system. And you've seen that with the Lions, where he's just been sort of just making them tick, 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 and really having some lovely touches as well. And I think that game management is something that he has leveled up massively in the last couple of years because you always see him having really good games, but then having like a really bad error or something like that, or like maybe not kicking, maybe trying something and not paying off. But I think that game management now has sort of come into his game as he's gone into sort of his 30s.
Well, and actually, I think that he's had it for a while. You remember the third test against South Africa, 2021?
Mm.
He was the stand-up player for the Lions in that match. He was dragging them across the line, whether they liked it or not.
Do you think
And
that
it
was
seemed like he
the?
was the most outstanding player on the pitch, and he should have played all three tests. I stand by it. I
Do
think
you
Gatland
reckon
made a
that was?
huge selection.
Do you reckon that
He
was?
was rising to the occasion, even under the pressure. Every pass, every kick, he was on fire.
Do you reckon that was sort of his moment where he sort of became, I guess, like from a very, very good player to like a world class player that can run international games? Do you think that was the sort of the
I think he'd already been there since that 31, was it 38-38 at Twickenham?
mm,
For me, that was the game where he really stood out.
you know,
But I still think he should have played all three Lions tests. Yeah, I think the result of the tour might have been different had he been.
Mm, yeah.
You just see the way he plays really cut open the Springboks at points, and he looked like he knew the game plan inside out. So,
What did
but
you
he also
think?
adapted.
What did you think about the Lions, just sort of overall? You speak about Russell and how he played. How do you reckon the Lions played to, obviously they've been building up over the last couple of weeks. There has been some weaker points in certain areas like the breakdown and even like kick reception, stuff like that. How do you reckon they sort of, did they meet your expectations as to how you thought they would play in the first test?
I think kick receptions more also in the last game. It was actually about how good Australia were kicking more than anything else. Australia were kicking really well. They were catching players on the wrong side with backline with shake. So it wasn't really about kick reception. It's more about the way Australia are kicking tactically. But I think the breakdown was a huge issue, not just on losing ball, getting it stolen, but also retention and coming in at the side, watching the game more. Andre
Do
Piardi, who's
you
going to referee
mean
the next game.
do you mean in the second half there? Is
I,
that
I
what
mean,
you
if,
mean?
actually, in both halves, if you watch
Do,
it,
do you think
because I was
so? Because
rewatching the game this morning,
I sort
not
of
a lot
don't.
was blown because Ben O'Keefe is a bit more relaxed
Yeah.
around the rucks.
I sort of
Piardi's
disagree.
very harsh at
I
it.
sort of
Uh,
disagree with that, to be honest. I thought they managed the
Yeah,
game
I'd agree.
well in the first half. I think maybe the second half, when you sort of see more substitutions being made, is perhaps when it became a little
the
bit more
breakdown was
scrappy in
still
the
a little bit
breakdown.
risky. The breakdown was still a little bit
Yeah.
risky, and there were still a couple of mistakes. And the thing that I'm trying to highlight is Ben O'Keefe is a little bit more relaxed around the gate, where the gate is. So he lets a bit more of a contest go on at the breakdown, and that's why it was all right for Lions in that first half. When they have Piardi, I think it's this weekend, and Amish Kelly for the third test. It's actually Piardi really is harsh on the breakdown and finding the gate legally. I thought Tom Curry made a couple of mistakes in the first and second half around that area, and he will be pinked on that in the second test. It's you. I think a lot of
Do you not
factors
think
when
that's
we look.
something that Andy Farrell will be aware of, though? Like,
No, no, what 100%. I don't think Curry starts the next game anyway. I think Morgan starts in the seven
Really?
jersey.
Really? I thought I like I like I'm like I can I have to say I just I don't like I think in the second half, yes, I think there were some breakdown issues. You sort of saw them, but I think that was perhaps even because they took their foot off the gas because they were so far ahead. Not even took their foot off the gas. I think they just maybe the sort of the level, the intensity wasn't quite there for the last 30 minutes. But like I thought Curry was fantastic. I thought he was one
No,
of the
he was
best players on the
fantastic. No,
pitch.
he was absolutely fantastic. But he had that no arms tackle that I don't think was
I
pinged,
think it was a tackle
but
in the
no.
air, was it?
no, there was a no
It
arms
It
was,
tackle.
was there.
yeah, he'd gone quite low, gone for the chop, but there wasn't really a wrap. But I don't know. It's one of those that some
I
referees would ping it, some wouldn't. But at the end
It's
of the
one
day,
of
you
those
still.
margin calls that in a big test people will say it either way.
I think
But
it's
for
very
me,
easy though to hyperfixate on moments like that. I think Tom
no, no,
Curry,
you're right. No, he's
you can't
fantastic. He had a great
disagree that
game.
he had a great game,
No,
and
he did.
considering how much flack he took pre-game, Jack Morgan throughout the friendlies and the warm-up games was exceptional, one of the best players on tour. And credit to him being one of the only Welshmen. It can't be easy to kind of settle into a team where you don't play with anybody week in, week out. Um, whether it's at Osprey level or whether it's at international. I think for him to come into that squad just proved that, I am one of the best sevens in the world. Like, get me in that squad. And then he was kind of forced out by Curry. People kind of gave him that flack, but Curry just silenced everyone and had a stellar performance.
Well, I wouldn't mind seeing Curry come off the bench, sort of like Walker Smith role, because I think when he comes and plays a high intensity 20 minutes, he is so impactful.
I think
For me, Curry,
you've got just like you've got so many
This-
great sevens there. To be honest, like I mean, you could go for
to be
any
the
single
lines
one
is
of them.
full
To
of
be
them, but
honest,
I also think
yeah,
I think Morgan is, even though Curry was so good, Morgan is the best seven on on that
yeah.
tour. He just is. He's been so standout, not only dragging Wales in games. I think because he's been playing with such a poor Wales side, he might have been overlooked a little bit. But now been in the Lions setup. He has really stood up even further.
What did you
He
think?
just gets there.
What did you think about the sort of the attacking structure? Obviously, they spoke about a lot, sort of trying to sort of get out the back and sort of the pod setup. I think it was like a 1-3-3-1. I think setup it was. What did you think about the sort of the attacking structure and sort of the kicking game that they employed in the game?
If you compare it to
Uh,
the Argentina test in Dublin, it's so much more solid. It
Yeah.
looks so confident.
I think that's obviously expected, isn't it? When you've got a team, looking back at Dublin when they played Argentina, the guys have been together,
Yeah,
just over a
exactly.
week, and now they've been together, over a month, and you'd expect from high quality, some of the top rugby players in the Northern Hemisphere to be executing that down to a T. Um, I think the out the back stuff with Tuipulotu and getting Jones involved as well was exceptional.
Mm.
And
Two
comes back
Pilato
to
was
Finn
big.
Russell.
He was big.
Yeah, Tuipulotu. I wasn't so sure in the first few warm-up games, but he really turned up against Australia in that first test,
I
and
think
kind of proved why he deserved that 12 shirt.
I think also having 12, 13 that play in and out together is so important.
I think go one
It's
step further and say you've got that 10, 12, 13
Yeah, yeah,
axis.
no, you know, you're completely right. Having players that know the midfield, that know each other inside out, know everything they're going to do. All the players on the Lions tour are such high quality that I just think having that midfield that know each other's every single move is going to break down Australia a lot further because they're going to utilize it. Now with Australia having lost Rob Valentini, he wasn't in the first test. I don't know if he's going to be in the second.
I think
That's
yeah.
somewhere that they could, the eight jersey, the eight channel, is something that they can really target with the size of Tuipulotu and make game like success.
Speaking about Australia, so you speak about how good the Lions were in their attacking structure, but Australia, it was sort of a bit of a. I mean, Dan Bigger, right, he was quite in commentary. He was quite scathing actually in the opening 20 minutes. He sort of spoke about how it was sort of like the worst, like Australia side the Lions have ever faced. What did you think about the Australia performance? Obviously at the tail end of the game they sort of came back into it a wee bit more, but what did you think about that first test performance, even despite missing those players like Valentini and Skelton?
Well, I think a Lions tour is quite odd because the Lions get so much warm up and Australia only get one test. Let's not forget these guys haven't been playing together for a while. So when they came out, I thought they did look shaky. They did look a bit nervous in the first half of the occasion. They weren't 100%. But I think Tom Liner looked quite good. In particular, for me, he stood out. Harry Potter was all right in the first half, but I think he picked up a little bit. It seemed a bit more of a cagey Australia side. They were either overeager at scrum time or just a bit nervous to use their shapes. And then as the second half came on, they've got a bit more confidence in them and
Do you
they
think
looked a
that
lot better.
do you think that nervousness, do you think that was down to the fact that it was well, Lolaseo, Noah Lolaseo, who's been out injured for them, that was a massive blow to their in the past couple of weeks. Do you think losing him and losing has sort of lost them a wee bit of structure almost?
I
Maybe.
don't.
Uh,
I wouldn't say it's a structure thing. I think it's maybe like a physicality thing and like an experience thing. It's like, I don't know, if you went, I think that's why some of the players in the Lions were picked because, a lot of people after the Six Nations were kind of raving about Sam Prendergast, and I've never really rated him as a 10. I think he's
Agreed.
firstly too small, and secondly, defensively very, very weak. I know you're going to hate
Someone's
that, Adam.
finally on my way. Someone's finally on my wavelength. We had this
I
discussion
know.
so many
I
times.
think he's young. He's young, right? Well, I'll give my 2 pence on this. I think he's young and he lacks physicality, yes, but I think he's got a rugby brain like very few players on the planet.
The under 20s fly half for Ireland had more of a rugby brain and other physicality than Sam Prendergast.
Which wrong? That's
Can't
just
remember his name, but the
Clutching
Irish
at straws
10.
here, Luke.
that's okay. Well,
No,
this is
I was
not the
trying to use
Sam
an
Pen.
Irish
Well,
reference. I was trying to use an Irish reference. I could have said Ngoma Zulu. I could have said Finn Smith. They're
this
guys
is
that have physicality
yeah.
and the rugby brain. Anyway, Prendergast isn't on the tour because he doesn't deserve to be there. Carry on, Dom.
No,
I think
but
Prendergast
coming
gets
back
a
to
tough rap, but we'll move on. That's a discussion for another time, Dom.
Winding him up, reel him in.
no, I think just go back to the Lolaseo point. It's just I don't think it is like a structure thing because if you're coming into an international level team, the structure doesn't change.
Hmm.
You should be able to switch out the whole team and then give the same performance. Yes, you're gonna lack or gain aspects in certain areas, whether it's physicality, whether it's speed or tackling ability or whatever. But the basics and how the coach wants the team to run shouldn't change. And I think that's Loloseo is a big miss, like I said, because of his experience, because of his physicality. But it shouldn't that shouldn't be the determining factor. It's like you shouldn't lose one player and the whole plan go out the window.
But does it not
But
speak
maybe it's
more
a
about their
depth
lack
thing.
of depth? Like their
But yeah,
lack
I
of
was going to say the
depth
same.
behind Lolaseo? Is that not,
But
is it?
maybe that's it. They've lost players to league. They've lost players to the NFL. So I think Australian rugby union at this moment is not in a stable place. They've had a good few issues, a lot of internal fighting, and a lot of their you can see it through World Rugby as a whole, trying to keep Australian league fans into union with the way that tackle laws have been changed, with the way the 20-minute red cards come in to speed up the game. Um, Australian rugby is sort of at a weird turning point where nobody really knows what's going on, and
I
players
think
just
it's
aren't coming through.
I think it's been like that for the last couple of years, though. I think you look back at even the World Cup just gone, and it was a pretty subpar performance. Australia have
Mm.
always been one of the giants in rugby. You kind of always look at your New Zealand, your South Africas,
Well,
your
they didn't make out of the
Australias.
group. They didn't make
Oh,
out of the group.
exactly.
Yeah,
But
that's
was that also a
So
coaching issue
awesome.
with Eddie Jones being such a poor coach? You remember
He
like
wasn't a suitable
2017, Alice.
coach for them. No, I don't think
No,
so.
it's like Alistair Coetzee in 2017. Peter Steph Toy was in that squad, and look at him now. I think there's a lot of it can also be put on the coach. Joe Schmidt's an excellent coach, and I think he's been doing really well with Australia currently. But
I
I
think there
think
was
he's
something that
working.
was said where everybody was talking, he could pull off a couple of tricks out of his sleeve, because he's always been that sort of coach which has these sort of identifies a weakness in a team, but he's not a magician. And I
No, but
think
he also can't
the
pick half
players,
the
you're
best
probably
Australian
right.
players
Yeah, well,
because
that's
they're
right.
they're they're in Japan or they're in France, and Australia won't let them play. And I think that's such a shame because we're not getting the best Australian side possible in high level rugby.
Yeah. I think there is those sort of issues, and that maybe speaks to the sort of the lack of the lack of strength and depth that it's particularly they have in that 10 position. I don't even think Ben Donaldson when he came on looked. I think he just sort of fitted. He's just sort of slotted in there, but I don't think he really added anything to that 10 jersey. I thought Tate McDermott was pretty good when he came on. I think he should probably start the second test. But what did you think? They're obviously missing a lot of forwards as well. Dave Parecki, Rob Valentini, Will Skilton, and Gleeson as well, who's Valentini's replacement. So they're missing a lot of that physicality. Do you think that was a big issue, especially considering the Lions pack and how sort of big Andy Farrell went with it?
Yes, I think if you look like Valentini has definitely been the Australians' best player for the past couple of years. If you look at his carrying, look at his rucking, look at his impact on the scrummaging and on the lineouts, he is one of their standout players and has been for the past few years. I'd say he's almost been carrying them at points. When they've been in tight games against New Zealand, against South Africa, against Argentina, he's been the one that's really lifted them. And his loss, not as only as a player but a character, is going to have a huge impact on how that team is working. This Australia team, I think James Slipper, he's 144 caps at prop, is going to be trying to be one of the leaders. But when your captain comes off after 60, 70 minutes, and you don't have that same level of expertise on the field, there just seems to be a gap. And I think that can harm the team as well.
Yeah, so it
I think
seemed
Harry
like that.
Wilson put in a very sorry, go on, Adam.
No, it's okay. It was just sort of saying that sort of lack of strength and depth as well probably comes in around the
Mm.
forwards as well, and the last lack of quality when you compare it to the Lions.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that I think Harry Wilson had a very strong game at eight. Um yeah, I think you talk about the missing players with Valentini and Skelton, but I think if you do try and find a time to look at the positives of it, like him, I think what's his name? Du
Fraser McReight.
Crespigny. Fraser McWright as well. He yeah, that whole back
Mm,
row it did work well. And when changes came for the Lions, and Earl came on, didn't make. I didn't think he had a massive impact when he came off the bench, and I don't think he's really a bench player. I think he's one of those that you start from the off. I think you said how Curry is one of those is more of an impact player, but I think Ben Earl, yeah, he can come on and do a shift, but I think you get the best out of him when you start him
yeah.
there and then.
Yeah. Would you start him over
Um,
Conan though? Would that be someone
I
you bring
I
in?
was surprised that Earl didn't get the nod, to be
I
fair.
think
No,
Earl's
I
been
agree.
fantastic, but I think
The Bernal has been out and out one of the best eights. I think since Caelan Doris has been injured, Earl has been the best eight in sort of Britain and Ireland.
I think it's
He
just
is
the fact
so
that Conan
dominant.
was that big sort of dent. He's a big man, like, and I think that was maybe why Farrell had
I
brought him
don't want
in.
to be too cynical, but isn't this like when Gatlin used to always pick a lot more Welsh players for the Lions and not many
Well,
Scottish? I know it was out and out because it's who the coach knows,
yeah,
but at
no,
the
well,
end of the day,
that
he's
is
not
the
always picking
thing.
the best players.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's just for whatever works for his system, and maybe Conan works for his system. I think Ben Earl definitely. I think if we're going on performance alone, he probably deserves a start ahead of Conan. But yeah, well, unfortunately,
But as Dom said, they've been in
there's other
camp for a month.
factors that are in play.
They've been in
Um,
camp for a month, and the Lions setup isn't exactly the Irish setup. So for me, it's more that actually Earl should get that nod. He should be the starting eight because he's such a good player. He's up front, he's physical, he gets in players' head, but he doesn't give away silly penalties. He's very well disciplined,
yeah, that's okay.
and I think that's what you
Um,
want.
we'll come on to your. I think we've got a little insight to Luke's test to 23 for the second test, which we'll come on to later. But just rounding up on that first test, did you see anything from Australia and indeed the Lions in the second half that was sort of point to the second test being a little bit more even, would you say?
I'd agree.
Yeah. Well, what sort of things do you think the Australians can get after, especially given they've got a couple of players coming back in? What sort of things do you think they can get after the Lions?
It's the aerial battle. If you can dominate there, you're making meters every single time. Russell's tactical kicking, as we said earlier, is so good on length, especially in territory.
But
If
do
you
you
can
think
take
that
territory out of the game by just getting high balls up and under, making short meters, getting your flanks and your eighth man in to make big clear outs, sort of a bit of a psychological one where you either make a big hit if they manage to take the ball, if you retain it, big clear out, get going, phase play, try and be intense and upfront using your your short term kicking battle because that's where Australia were very good.
but do you think they can compete with the Lions in a kicking battle when you've got two of really the best kickers in the world in Jameson Gibson Park and Finn Russell? Do you
I
really
think
think
it's
they
how
100%.
can
you,
do you
yeah,
think they have
it's
the
how you
quality
affect
to
the kicking.
defeat? Pardon?
If you dominate, set the standard for the kicking there.
But
Russell might want to play
how
a more
can
long
they how
kicking
can
battle.
they if they're going up against someone like Finn Russell and
Limit
James
the
Park?
opportunities to kick, shut down, run certain lines so you make it harder for that kick to happen. It's not just about, well, they're going to kick it and they're going to make it hard. If you shut down that opportunity for Russell to kick, if you force pressure, if you make big hits, clear outs, 1, 2 seconds gives you a chance to reset and get a player in position if you make a nice clear out or you're a counter ruck. So it's just making those small differences will have a big effect that then lead you the opportunity to make a more dominant kicking game.
Who would you
I think
bring
from an
in?
offensive point, sorry, go on, Adam.
I was just wondering who would you bring in, Luke, to sort of help you execute that plan?
I think Tate McDermott's a better out and out kicker.
Hmm.
But Tom Liner also was very good with the ball in hand, and he was such a good kicker. I saw him; he was confusing lower points with his aerial bombs, and I think that's somewhere they could target.
Dom, how do you think Australia can improve for next weekend?
I think kick kick to compete is the best way to get into the game and get more out of it for sure. Um, I think like Luke highlighted the point, Tom Line has been very good. Well, was very good in that first test. And I think if they go for the other nine option with McDermott, then two classy kickers, putting in some high balls against a back three across the board for the Lions who have kind of struggled this whole series. will definitely be the way to do it. Because I think Hugo Keenan has been subpar this test, or this tour. Um, Everybody knows what he's capable of, but he's just kind of not met those expectations. James Lowe was very ropey in the first test as well. Tommy Freeman, I'd give him a 6 out of 10, just pretty bang average. So maybe they shake it up a little bit there. Kinghorn had a better game against the Pacifica, but whether he gets into the squad after playing quite a lengthy match, I'm not sure. But I think that's going to be their best way to kind of maximize getting into the game and bringing the physicality that Australia kind of want to use against this Lions team.
Yeah.
I'd agree completely with Dom.
Yeah.
Dom, would you say that Australia almost need another Quade Cooper style 10?
Yeah, just kind of sometimes doing it when it's least expected as well, because that's what Finn kind of does. Like,
Yeah.
there could be a passage of play where, you know, a back's run might be optimal, but sometimes the off chance of a kick up or across the field just to kind of bring other players into the game, you kind of exploit different areas would be the better option. And I think, yeah, maybe, you know, I'll sing Linus praises, but it does come back to the point of Loliseo is someone like that kind of missing.
Yeah.
So
The million-dollar question here is James O'Connor, who obviously played in the last Test series, which was in Australia against the Lions. Does he come back in, even if it's on the bench for Australia, to help out with that sort of that game noise, that tactical kicking battle?
Is this another Mornay Stain 2009, 2021 type thing of let's
Potentially
bring in
so.
the old head who has so much experience
Well, it
against
worked
some
for
of the
South
greatest
Africa.
players?
It worked for South Africa, didn't it? As
Yeah,
you'll
it did.
gleefully tell me.
Oh, that was so good. And he's going to come back in the next test series as well. Just you wait.
Yeah,
Um,
it'll be nearly 50 by then, won't it?
and we'll still win. Um, no, I think James O'Connor is a special player. He's still got the legs for it. So bringing him on into the start, not into the starting squad, I'd say you need him like they used Mornay Stain, late game closer, someone who's been there, who's been in, where it's dark. But also, he's got revenge in his mind. You
Mm,
know, he wants to win this series, perhaps even more than the other Australians, because he's been there and he's lost it already.
yeah.
I think
Would
you
he
need a
come
player
in
like
for the
him who
bench
can go
on the
down to that
bench for
level.
you two, or would he come in and straight into the starting lineup? What do you think? If you were
I'd,
to come in?
I think Australia might want to go 6-2 to match the physicality. So I'd put him in the 23 jersey,
Yeah,
and then make because Liner can play fullback. So if you do have to bring someone else off, you can sort of adjust the field there.
yeah. Be quite interesting to see. You speak about the 6-2 there. If they will bring in a couple of sort of forwards that have been sort of out sort of out of the squad, really, like Pete Samu, who's been absolutely fantastic for Bordeaux this season. Charlie Gamble, who's had a couple of games against the Lions on this Test series against the Waratahs, and then obviously the Pacifica the other night. It'd be interesting to see if those guys are brought in
Mm.
with it, just to bring that physical edge.
I think they should be. I really think they should be brought in. They need guys that can get up front, hard, make huge hits, and put a lot of pressure on the lines.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a necessarily terrible idea to bring in James O'Connor, but do you really want someone who's not been a part of, you know, a test side for the last 3 years or so? Um,
It, it's happened before and it's worked.
Who's to say it will work again? It's kind of I'm playing
No,
devil's
no, no,
advocate a
no, no,
little bit
no, no.
here,
I
but
It's
fully agree.
interesting to say
It's a
because
gamble.
it's a big gamble because even if you consider Mornay Stain coming in 2021 to that South African side, that's a World Cup winning that's a World Cup winning side that he's coming into. It's a bit of a different kettle of fish. And when you're speaking about this Australia side, which is very much in transition, and is very much trying to fill that a gap that Noah Lolesio
But
vacates.
maybe you need a guy that does that. You need a guy that has
Well, that's the
experience
million.
in
That's
diff
why it's a million
in
dollar
well,
question.
you remember that those 2013 Aussie team went on to go into a World Cup final. They weren't a bad team at all. And I think Australia, if he's coming from an age where Australia were playing much better rugby, where they were one of the dominant four or dominant three, I should say, and I think he, what he could do is act in a leadership position, sort of like old heads that they take on the Lions tour, or maybe players like V. LaRue in the Springbok setup. He's got that experience. He's got that nous in a different situation where he can bring the younger players through and just say, "Listen, it's all right. Let's take a different approach here. Let's try something new, or try something even older because it might work." On the other
Well, I don't
hand,
know about. Sorry,
his
go on.
kicking game has changed since then, so maybe it won't work. Kicking back in 2013 was a lot different to how it is perceived now.
Mm. Yeah, Lee has been out of the. I think it's been a couple of years now since he's been in that. As you say, he's been in that sort of test arena. So it'll be a bit of a baptism of fire for him. But we'll see what Joe Smith goes for. Don sort of touched briefly on the specific game with Blair Kinghorns. So obviously the Lions played last night. As the time of recording, we're recording this Wednesday at noon. They won at 24-19. A bit of a nervy finish there after a late try by Rob Leoa. What did you just make of that game? Obviously, the big talking point about that game is going to be who impressed, who do you think's pushed their way into contention for that test side, who stood out for you?
My heart bleeds for Darcy Graham.
Hmm.
How,
Awful,
first of
absolutely
all,
awful.
should have been picked in the lines from the off, personally.
Who
Bit of
would
a
you have picked
controversial
him
take.
for? Who would you pick him instead? I know who I
James
would have
Lowe.
picked him instead. Oh, absolutely not. What an awful. Oh, good. I hope you're trying to wind me up with that because that is an awful take. That is an awful take.
Um, if you'd have if you'd have asked me that a couple of months ago before the team was picked, I wouldn't have been able to give you a proper answer.
Mm.
Looking at it now, 100% Van der Merwe.
Yeah, I would tend to agree
Agreed.
with that. I would tend to agree with that. No, it was very
Uh,
unlucky, and he showed an impact when he came on as well. I think it was something like 5 carries or something in 16 minutes. They were really trying to get the ball out to the edge. It was actually quite interesting to see the sort of the setup that they had. They were consistently hitting the third man and then getting out back, and they're consistently hitting the edges. It was really, really good for about 20 minutes, and then sort of Blair Kinghorn decided to throw a Hail Mary, and there you go. They're on Pacifica were under the posts. But yeah, is there anyone that you think stood out in terms of the test selection?
I can't remember who played now. There was a lot of unknowns in that game, really, wasn't there?
There was a lot of new, yeah, there was a lot of new players sort of come in.
I'm
Yeah,
going to say it, Jack Morgan.
Jack Morgan. Yeah, well, he was bound
yeah.
to come up at some stage. He actually did go off with 25 minutes to go, which could potentially be an
Well, I
indicator.
think he's being rested for the second
Yeah.
test. They didn't want to risk it. They don't want to overexhaust him.
Do you think he comes in? You look at the test side, and you speak about Jack Morgan coming in. Do you think he comes in where an Ollie Chesham moves into the starting team for Joe McCarthy? Because Joe McCarthy is he's the sort of only forward there that has got an injury, or potential injury, might not make it. And obviously with a test winning team, how much do you want to change? How much would Andy Farrell reasonably change? Do you think
But
he comes in on off the bench and then you've sort of got
line, who was line six? It was Ty Burn, wasn't it?
line six was Tag Burns. So if you brought Jack Morgan into the side, then it would either
Drop
be for
Curry
Ben
onto the
Earl.
bench
It'd be
and bring.
do you think you would bring
I
him?
drop Curry
Uh,
onto the bench, start
Yeah.
Morgan, and because I think Curry would be such a good impact player. He's so fast.
Mm.
He knows what he's doing defensively. He'll come on. I think Ben Earl isn't an impact player, like Don said. Ben Earl is an upfront. You want him making those hits at the start of the game, getting in other teams' heads. Um,
So you drop
and
Conan to the bench,
I drop Curry to the bench.
Curry, and then Conan would stay in.
What do you mean? Because Conan eight. No, I'd take Conan off as well. I'd have
Do you
Ben
change?
Earl starting.
You would change to your back row players?
Yes, I would.
Yeah.
I think the back row wasn't firing on all cylinders at
You
points,
think
but I think
so?
Curry. No, I think the thing is that Conan's a great player, but Ben Earl has an extra edge to him that we've seen in high performance games. And this was only the first test. They've got two left.
Mm.
I think
take the
if
risk in the second test.
yeah, I was
Take
literally
it
about to
now
say.
before it gets to a dire situation where that gamble could backfire completely.
Mm.
Without, I know we said that we're going to go on to what our 23s will be for the second test, but and I'll be giving a lot away of what mine would be. But I think what you kind of do is shift everybody up. You take McCarthy out, put Burn into the second row, put Curry at 6, Morgan at 7, and then you can either go Conan or Earl at 8, kind of depending on what you want to do.
Mm. Yeah.
That would
Not a
be
bad
my
idea.
move.
I would go a wee bit more. I would be a wee bit more pragmatic with it personally, but no, that's fair. Is there anyone else that here's another $1 million question, I guess. The no, we're it's all on the
Get him in.
it's
Get him in.
you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Get him in.
Owen
Get him in the
Farrell,
23
Owen
shirt.
Farrell, the man who everyone was giving flack about coming in. His dad runs the team. He's all this other stuff. But how good was he yesterday? By the way,
Owen
Sometimes
Farrell.
nepotism is needed.
yeah, yeah.
That's a
So when
quote.
here's the $1 million question: does Owen Farrell, son of Andy Farrell, make test selection on Saturday?
Yeah, take out
Yes,
Marcus Smith on the bench and put in Owen Farrell.
You're not a big fan
Don's
of Martin
absolutely
Smith,
nailed
though,
it.
are you?
Don't get me started on Marcus Smith.
Hmm.
I like Smith,
I've
but I'd agree. Farrell
You're a
covers
bit of a
more.
meat and two veg man rather than a spicy. Well, I don't know what sort of dish you would describe Marcus Smith as. Maybe a nice bolognese or something like that. Maybe some a ribiachi sauce in there. Um,
I don't know what he's
God,
going on
yeah,
about.
I don't know.
no,
I
I'm
just
really
start
confused. You're
going.
just kind of
Can
rattling
we
off
move on
food
and talk about
combinations
the
here.
rugby? Well, can I just say, I think I'm going to spoil a bit my team selection. I think I'd go 6-2 again, and I drop the 22 jersey out with the replacement 10 and have Farrell as a 23 because he can cover in the field. There's enough players in that Lions team that can cover at fullback as well. So for me,
I think
Farrell comes
if we go,
in is a replacement 10 or 12 dependent because he's just so good.
Yeah, he's
I,
He's
got.
proven he can be out a couple of years and come back and be absolutely firing on all cylinders.
I think this is one
I
that
think
we're all
that's
going to agree on. I think like when like the way I look at it is you've got that 22 jersey or 23 if you want to go 6-2 as Luke said. Um, and you're thinking this weekend, what's Andy Farrell going to want to do? He's not going to want to give Australia an inch. He's not going to want to give them any glimmer of hope. He's going to want to stamp it out. He's going to want to manage the game, kill the test series. He's going to want to win it on Saturday. He's not going to want to take any chances. And do you do that with a Mark Smith on the bench, who is an absolutely fantastic player, can create a moment of magic from anywhere? Or do you maybe bring Owen Farrell in, who can come on for he can come on for Sione Tuipulotu, or he can come on for Finn Russell, and he can manage that game. He's got that big test match experience, and he can just kill the game. He can just give the Australians no hope whatsoever.
I think Marcus Smith has one weakness, which is when
I'd
he
say he's
gets
got more
hit.
than one.
No, but I think his big one is if he gets hit hard and they target him and they put a massive shot, his whole game gets fried.
Mm. I think this is
Seen it before in other tests, and I think you don't want to take that risk. Farrell's a lot of a stronger carrier. He's he's better in contact as well. He doesn't lose a contest, and then all of a sudden this game is gone. Farrell's so consistent.
what would you say, Don? Do you think Farrell in is that's the way to go?
Yeah, I think Marcus is quite flappable as a person, well, as a player, sorry. And I
Yes, me.
think when you're looking, huh?
Hear what you mean? See the whole character assassination here. We're never gonna get him on the
Is this a
podcast.
Smith hate club or something?
Yeah.
No, I won't go too heavy on him. But yeah, I think you're right. What he does for Quins and in the Prem is brilliant, and it's he's rightly so in that conversation of some of the top 5 10s in that league. But when you put him on a bigger stage, I think I was a bit unsure about him being picked in the lines to begin with. But then when you look at the depth and position that he can provide, considering the lack of 15s, he is an asset in that sense. but I think for this third test, I think the 5-3 split is the best way to go. Obviously, you need a nine, and if you're going to have two reinforcements in the backs, I think Farrell, given how he played against Pacifica, yes, they're a less well put together squad, so it was easier for him to show his class. But I don't think that level of class will deteriorate against a team like Australia. Um, but then it's who do you put as the 23? Aki comes on and he always puts in a hell of a shift. So do you take off Russell and then put Farrell on the bench and someone else? I don't know. Um,
What
my
about
kind of wild
what about
take.
Kinghorn? Kinghorn, would you really? Oh,
I
he was
think if
okay.
Kinghorn's fit, you start him. I
I'd
think
agree
if
with
you're
that.
gonna
Osborne with Jamie Osborne, he had a very good game. I know he's only had one Lions start, but I thought he was very
no,
good.
I think my 23 shirt would have to go to Matt Canson.
All right, that's
It's
okay.
an interesting
I think
call.
we've already sort of danced around it or danced up into it, sort of. I don't know what I'm saying now. We've come out with all these analogies which don't even make sense. We've sort of danced around the second test preview enough. Now I think we'll just move on to that and we'll sort of preview the game. Well, gentlemen, as you'd sort of had hinted at your test 23s, I think we'll probably just start with them, just so we're not as I say, dancing around it, prevaricating on it too much. Who wants to go first on their 1 to 23 for the second test?
Dom, you can go
I'll go
first.
first. Yeah, I'll go first. Um, I think front rows are lock-in still. Genshi and Furlong, class. I think they could probably have done with taking Furlong off a little bit earlier, but that's just my take on it.
Genge is some leader, isn't he? By the way, just whilst we're on Genge.
Oh
Genji's
yeah,
incredible,
Yeah,
unbelievable player. I
one of the
think what
best in the
he
sense of
gives,
tomorrow.
yeah, I think when what he gives more than Porter is that in that midfield kind of ball carrying. Porter will kind of just take the ball, take the contact, kind of build up a phase, whereas you give the ball to Genji, you can kind of know he might gain a few more yards, which for a prop is, I think that's a bit more value. Well, undeniably, it does add a bit more value.
and he's a better
Um,
scrummager.
yeah, 100%. Um, Second rows, Itoji, and I'm gonna go with Todd Burn, move him into the second row. Um, Six, I'd go Curry. Seven, I'd go Morgan. Eight, I'll back Conan purely for balance. I think if you bring it early in as well, you've just got too many players doing the same job. Whereas I think Conan kind of gives a bit of variety in comparison to if you're pairing Curry and Morgan. Um, Nine, Gibson Park. 10, Russell. I'll s- I'll stick 11 low. I'll go with Huey Pilotu in the centres. Freeman, and then if he's fit, Kinghorn at 15.
You can
Um,
play back to back 2 games in a row, sort of in the
Yeah,
week.
I th
Yeah.
yeah, I think so. I think you start him, and then because uh, I'll give my reasoning in a second. I won't spoil too much, but I've already mentioned it. But 16, I'd go Kelleher. Jamie George is teetering on it to me. Um, Kelleher's throws haven't been. I think he's got the lowest lineup percentage out of 4, 5 that have played now. Cowan Dickey's were even better than his. But then Port at 17, Stewart at 18. Go Sesam at 19 as that second row, back row replacement, because then you can either bring off Burn or you can bring off Curry, and then kind of switch about, putting, Burn into the six or whatever. Um, I then
So,
go Earl
so you
as
would
a
go,
fan.
would you have, so in the squad there, are you having like one replacement for your second row?
Yeah, so I'd have Chesn as like a
Hmm.
second row replacement,
Okay. Yeah.
but with the viable option that you can put Burn into the back row and put Chesham into the second row, or vice versa. And then because Todd Burns, he's an 80-minute player, so you shouldn't be needing to bring him off. So you could take one of the other back rowers off, whether it's Morgan, whether it's Curry, kind of, and then put one of them to sit, put Chesney to six, switch them to the other side, whatever. And then I put Earl as the final forward replacement. Alex Mitchell as nine, although I have been loving watching Ben White. Oh, awesome player.
Absolutely.
Owen Farrell, and I'd go Matt Hansen because, yeah, Kinghorn played quite a lot of minutes. Did he play a full 80?
I think he did, yeah. I think he did. I think he was trying to
Yeah,
up his minutes because he had missed it. He hadn't really got that many.
yeah. But I still think, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, kind of 3, 4 days worth of rest. I think he could still bounce back and, he didn't take a hammering. So I think he could play, give him 50 minutes and then bring Mac Hansen on to play at cover 15. Because I think he was very unlucky not to get a test shirt last time out in Brisbane.
Mm. Yeah,
So
no,
that's my
I think
23.
there's a bit of an injury problem with him. Otherwise, I think you're right. I think he definitely would have made that 20. Well, not definitely, because there's obviously a wealth of
Yeah.
depth, but yeah, he would have had a good chance of making that test 23. Luke, what's your 23?
So I'd go with Genge, Sheehan, Furlong front row, old reliable. My pack's actually quite similar to Dom's. I'd go with Itoje Burnlocks. Same reasoning. I think they're both 80-minute players at the end of the
I
day.
think we're all working on the prerequisite. I think that's the right word. Just for the viewers that Joe McCarthy is not going to be fit. I think
Yeah,
we're working on that. I think yeah.
yeah.
So
It's a safe assumption.
just
And then I'll go with 6, 7, 8 will be sorry, give me a second. It was going to be Morgan at 7, Earl at 8, and 6. Who was playing at 6 on the weekend?
Burn was
Remind me
playing at
again.
6.
Burn. Yeah, sorry. Burn at 6.
Who would you go in
Sorry.
your second row then?
Uh, oh,
Is it Toe
my,
J?
yeah, no, you've got me flummoxed here. Sorry,
Okay,
swap that.
Luke's been up doing some late nights at that the late night analysis. So
Sorry, swap out. Keep Burn at 5. Sorry, Burn at 5. I'll put Curry in the 6 jersey, actually. There's a bit of experimentation. 9, Gibson Park. 10, Russell. 12 and 13 has to be Hugh Pilotu. They're the best centre pairing in the Six Nations teams at the
Yeah.
moment, by far. Freeman at 11, because I think that wing is somewhere that Australia really targeted the high ball, and Freeman was better than Lowe under the high ball by a long shot. I'd drop Lowe and put Hansen at 14 as that extra fullback cover on the field already.
so you've got Freeman on one wing and on the left
Hansen,
wing, Hans.
Hansen on the
Hansen on
other.
the right, because I think that actually that might run a bit better. And then King on at 15. It's a bit of a wild back line, but I actually think that back three, you've got multiple fullback covers, and Freeman was better in the air, and that right hand wing, or Australia's right wing, was someone that they were targeting, and they need a better person under the high ball there. My bench, I would go with Jamie George, Pierre Schumann. I don't think Porter is Lions quality. He is too weak in the scrums, and Australia love to scrum. If you have a player that gives away penalties late game, it's going to cost you.
You speak about the Marcus Smith hate club. Well, this is the Andrew Porter hate club. Luke's not a huge fan of Andrew Porter.
He's overrated. For a prop, he doesn't do his key job well enough.
If you go for Schumann, even though he's played,
There's too much Ireland slander going on in this podcast. Far too much.
yeah,
Schumann
would you
played
still go with
yesterday, to be fair.
Schumann played what, near on 75 minutes? Came off
I'd still.
right at the end.
The thing is, I'd only bring him on in the last 15.
Yeah, I guess
Genge has
Genge can
got
kind
Genge
of,
has got a bit of a tank. Yeah, I'm not
Again,
sure.
just
I'm not sure.
65
yeah,
minutes in him. I'd bring Schumann on for the last 15, and then I'd rotate them for the third test. And then I'd have Stewart at 8 in the 18 jersey. I think it's a no-brainer.
yeah.
1920, I'd have Conan in the 20 jersey as an impact player. 19. Can you remind me of Lions locks? Because my head, I've been trying to.
We got
I had someone in my mind.
Cummings. You've got
Goings, Ryan.
Cummings was the one I wanted to bring on the field. Scott, I think he's such a good
he's
lineup
an
threat.
interesting. He's an interesting
He's
one,
he's not
isn't
only
he?
that, but he's such a good lead lock in a maul.
Hmm.
Something that really isn't talked about is how effective locks are in mauling and also in counter mauling, and he's been so good at that for Glasgow this season. So
You
Scott
go for
Cummings, and
Cummings
then
even though full 80.
yes, again, I'm only bringing him on in the last 15. Sort of,
Oh,
I do a sort of later bomb squad style thing of bring on a few impact players and really blitz Australia at the end.
Well,
Um,
I guess.
and then I think Dom's convinced me to go 5-3 purely because I've got big carriers all around in the pack already who can last that long. So I would probably go Alex Mitchell in the 21 jersey. I'd go Owen Farrell in the 22, and I would go Bundy Aki in the 23.
Very interesting that.
I think I'm not the biggest fan of Aki, but I think as a late game ball carrier, he almost acts as an extra forward in the sort of Damien Dialende role or the under Estes role. If you need someone to step up, if there's a card or something, who can act as that flank and make a big hit, get involved with the forwards, almost act as that sort of ninth part of the pack.
He gives you that go forward ball. He might always that's gain line success. Exactly. That's
I'd use him more
that's
as
a
that
hell
late
of a
game to
shout.
put pressure on Australia.
Right. Well, that's very very nice, gentlemen. I'm absolutely seething with Luke's James Lowe shout. By the way, I think that's oh goodness. Right. Anyway,
go on then,
I'll
Mr.
try.
Gaston,
I'll
your
try
turn.
and keep my cool there, but
It's just going to be the
that's
Island
riled me
15.
up. Right. So I would go number one. Obviously, Ellis Genge, huge, massive leader for the Lions. Actually, alongside Itoje. You ever see any of the Lions behind the scenes? He's always sort of speaking. He's always motivating the players. Shane obviously and Furlong. That front row picks itself. Um. I would have kept McCarthy in, but I don't think obviously, we all think he's not going to make the test on Saturday. So to partner a Toje, I'd actually go Chesham, just because they sort of know each other quite well. And I think Ollie Chesham probably has deserved that start. I'd quite like to keep Tagburn at six because he was absolute man
Mm.
marking test match animal at six. And I think he's also good for that line out option as well. Um, Alongside Itoje and Chesham as well. Seven, I can't drop Tom Curry. Tom Curry was fantastic. As much as I love Jack Morgan and as much as I want that Welsh representation in the 15, I think Tom Curry was fantastic. And honestly, I would keep Jack Coonan in the side. I think he gave them sort of that go forward ball, big bruising ball carrier. And I think he was very good. And I thought Earl was decent. I think he can bring an impact off the bench. Perhaps he'd be better starting, but I think he does bring that impact off the bench. So I'd sort of keep him there. But 9 and 10, obviously Gibson Park and Russell, that picks itself. They were imperious on the weekend. I think yeah, Jones and Tuipolotu. I actually think Aki and Ringrose are really unlucky that Ringrose had the injury where he was, because I think you could probably pick Aki and Ringrose and they would do just as good a job as Tuipolotu and Jones. I genuinely think that. I don't, you're disagreeing, look, are you?
No, it's because of Russell. You want to start the best 10 and you want
Yeah,
your
but I don't
midfield
know.
to
I think
align
I
with
think
them.
Aki and Ringrose were doing well against the Brumbies
They
alongside
were,
Russell.
but
I think they were pretty unlucky that they had sort of because they obviously were coming as a pairing. So I think Aki was pretty unlucky that Ringrose had the head injury. And then the back three, I this is going to sound a little bit mad because I know the back three out of all the positions was probably your sort of your, I guess you could say, weakness. But I would probably keep it the same. I think actually I'm sort of trying to think. I would keep the wingers the same. The wingers would be the same. It'd be James
Yeah.
Lowe with that massive boot of his on the left wing. I don't think you can drop. I think that was an obscene take by Luke, personally. And then Tommy
I think it's
Fleetwood.
quite underrated to have a left footer on the left wing.
Yeah.
I
Well, it's the
think,
only one that he has really, apart from I think
yeah,
Jamie Osborne has a big left peg on him as well.
yeah. I mean, Elliot Daly he's a left footer as well, but I mean, it was quite sad to see his tour cut short. Had Elliot Daly been fit, I reckon he would have started the first test though.
It's interesting though, because
I
kicking
agree.
wings isn't something that the Southern Hemisphere does as much as the North.
Yeah.
Off memory,
Well, it's
you
something
know,
that Andy Farrell does quite a bit, I think. He
Andy
seems to
Farrell
play
likes
in that
having kicking
position.
wingers, whereas I'm of the approach you don't really need them if you've got a good 10 and good fullback.
Mm. Well, that's fair. I think for the fullback, I'm sort of a bit of trepidation about putting Blair Kinghorn in fullback, because I think he was decent against Pacifica, but I think him playing 80 minutes, you wouldn't, I don't want to overawe him, and I don't think Hugo Keenan was as bad. I don't think it was terrible. I think it was decent. It was okay. I had a couple of, obviously Jorgensen rose higher, but I think he couldn't have really done more in that one. I think Jorgensen, that was just a fantastic tech, and I think he was generally okay at covering the backfield. So I keep Keenan in, so I keep that sort of same back three, and then replacements I would go. Um, I would keep Kelleher in, just because I think George played quite a lot of minutes there. Maybe bring George in as a replacement for the third test potentially, because I generally prefer him as a player. Um, I would. I'm tempted to bring Schumann in, although the fact that he played 75 minutes would make me go for Andrew Porter still, and maybe look at Schumann for the third test, just because he's fresh. And I don't think Andrew Porter is going to come on and cost the Lions game. I don't. I think they should be okay. Wiltshire at 18, 19 and 20. I'm probably gonna go for two back row players. I think I'm gonna go for Ben Earl at 19, and then I've got to bring the Jack Morgan at 20 just for that breakdown. Just sort out that breakdown. Jack, come on and sort out. And I think he's earned a spot in that test side. And I think you've got enough cover there with Byrne being on the pitch and Chesson being on the pitch for that second row as well. So I reckon they would be okay for that. Um, and then the last three, number 21, scrum half cover, I'd probably keep it as Mitchell, although I think that, as you say, Dom Ben White's been unreal. He's been really, really good. But I don't necessarily think he's what they need in the second test. I think they need to maybe just go and kill the series this one. I think he would maybe definitely be an option for the third test.
Yeah,
If they do end the series, obviously. Um, and 22, I've got to go Owen Farrell. Owen Farrell, as I say, to kill the test. I'm
three
gonna,
from three.
I'm, I'm gonna go for Owen Farrell, and then 23. I don't think I would go for Aggie, because I think if Farrell comes on, he gives you that 12 colour, whereas it makes me think you'll need that sort of like a sort of utility back, sort of thing. I get your point with Mac Hansen would potentially be good, but I think Kinghorn just is more rounded in terms of his kicking as well as his sort of just general handling ability and running ability. So I'd start Kinghorn at 23. Mac Hansen, incredibly unlucky to miss out, by the way. But
Mhm.
yeah, that would be my test 23. We've got just over 5 minutes left, gentlemen. Sort of predictions on how you think the game's going to go and what score you think it's going to be. I'll go with Luke first.
Ooh, if we go with Adam's team, the Lions are going to lose by 50. No, I think it's going to be a lot tighter this weekend.
You do.
I
What do you
can't
think's
see
going
it
to be
being
the
a
difference
blowout either
there?
way. Australia coming back into the fold.
Yeah,
You know,
players
we've talked a
coming
lot about the Lions. We haven't talked a lot about the Australians and how they have looked stronger in that second half. But also, they have the ability. And watching the Rugby Championship last year, Joe Schmidt had ideas. You could see him putting stuff in place. I've always said this isn't going to be a 3-0 tour.
in.
Um, I could see Australia taking this game by 2 or 3 points. I could,
Wow,
genuinely.
that is a big fear
Um,
right there.
I can see him. I think it'll have to be gritty if they do it.
Yeah.
They'll have
What
to
do you think?
fight.
What sort of area do you think they'll need to sort of
They,
attack primarily?
so they need to go after the Lions in the line out. down at the breakdown, they need to go some dark place in the breakdown. They've got to attack that. They've got to counter ruck, but it's also the aerial battle.
Mm.
That short range kicking, that sort of midfield, sort of 22 to 10 meter and 10 meter to opposition 22 area. They need to win
Get
that short
Swally
battle
involved.
kick game. Get Sully, he's 6'5" at 13. He should be, and he's fast. He should be up
Him
there
and him and
making an
Ikatoy were
impact.
actually quite good in that game, despite the
They
sort of
were.
ball they got. Um,
No, but if you get the kicking right, and that might just be they needed an extra week in camp, which they now have had, get them in, and I reckon there'll be I reckon they can do it. This isn't to say I want it to happen, but this is to say I can see it happening, but
yeah,
it would be sort of 2 or 3 point victory margin.
yeah. So yeah, 2 or 3 points. That is quite a bold take. Dom, what are you thinking? Are you agreeing with Luke, or what's your thoughts?
Um, I disagree with him in the fact that I think it'll be a 3-0 test series.
I agree with that
I
actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Australia are up to scratch. I think for the last few years they've just not been the Australia that they once were, which is sad to see. I mean, it's sad to see Wales in a similar restructure phase. I mean, they've obviously got issues further afield, but I think Noah, I think if they go even with the minor changes that are looking to be in place, I think it will be quite a convincing victory. I'm going to say by at least 15 points.
Wow. Okay, that's from one extreme to the other, or not one extreme, but you know what I mean. Wow. What sort of how do you think the Lions are going to do that in terms of improving on Test One's performance to sort of increase that margin of victory?
Well, I mean, you look at it, what was it? At half time, it was 17-5, so that's a 12-point gap. Lions, yes, they've been slow starting in some games, but as of late, they've been very quick off the mark. You know, Tuipulotu scoring within the first 10 minutes. Sheehan in the second half came on. Well, they came on and scored within the first minute of the second half. I think if they can, go firing on all cylinders in each of the first like 20, 25 minutes, and then they bring on that bomb squad to kind of null the game. Luke, you mentioned the point. Alex Mitchell's one of those players who would be better in this test than Ben White because he slows down the game. He's got fairly good kicking in the sense that it will just kind of halt Australia's attack. And I can easily see them kind of gaining quite a good lead and then kind of shutting the game down for the final 10. Um, but that's just, yeah, that's my take on how I think it's going to pan out.
Hmm. I think I'll probably go for something sort of in the middle of that because I think we're going to see.
There for the
Well,
diplomats.
I hope I really hope we're gonna see something a bit different than this week, something a bit more competitive. I think Australia will obviously bring back Valentini, Skelton, and potentially bring in a couple others, maybe your boy Gamble from the Waratahs and Pete Samu, potentially just shake it up a bit, you know. I don't know what sort of changes they're gonna make at 10, but I can still see the gap being too big and the Lions even improving on Test One's performance, having another week together, just to sort of iron out any problems that they may have. I think Australia will be better. They will be better, but I think the Lions will also be better. And I would see the Lions winning it by 10 points, as opposed to 15.
All right.
Yeah, that's how I see it.
Interesting.
And with just less than a minute to go, guys, I think that is us. And thank you very much for coming on. And that is season 3 of the Rock and Roll Show.